All right. Welcome to the Damage Per Podcast episode. I don't even know what episode I'm on anymore. It is November 19th.
Mm.
It is 5:10 in the early evening and is black as fuck out. And
Yeah, I love it. I'm here for it.
we are in it, baby. Um really excited for this week's episode because we're going to be talking about a thing I've been hyper fixated on for the last 3 months, which is Gears of War. Um, and I'm joined with Mitch Reeves, who was on the soft launch of the podcast. And we bullshitted for like 40 minutes before Zoom decided that we didn't pay the Zoom gods the
No.
$15, so they cut me off. But I'm joined with Mitch Reeves again. I'm really excited. Mitch is a great talker, great speaker, I should say, or great person to be in conversation with. There we go. About things that I also like, and also a big Gears fan, which
Yeah.
is fun. Mitch is also on a podcast called Divided by Werewolves, and you also work sometimes in a video game shop. Is that correct?
Yeah. So my primary source of income is a hospital. I work in surgery, and I've been there for Jesus Christ. It came up the other day, and people were laughing at me, but I've been there since the launch of the Dreamcast. And my official first
I said
day
I got Gamecast.
at the first day at the hospital was 99.99. So been there for a minute. But yeah, no, my friend opened a store about 7 years ago in West Point here. So I'm technically in Alabama, but on like the Alabama Georgia line, and so the store is actually in Georgia. But like the way it is, like if I leave my driveway and go down the street, if I take a right, I stay in Alabama. If I take a left, I'm in Georgia. Like I'm right on the line. But yeah, it's not necessarily a video game shop. It's a buy sell trade, but we do mostly video games, toys, vinyl, some Blu-ray, some DVD, but like not a lot. But just nerd shit in general, comics, shit like that.
Nice. So speaking of Dreamcast, you have Dreamcast there, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, so here's the thing. I'm going for a full North American set, and I'm a little over halfway. So I get first dibs when they come in, and if it's something I don't need, then yeah, we will put it
We
out.
will,
But
we will have
I get to go
Dreamcast.
through it first.
So when you say a complete North American set, you mean all the games?
Yeah,
Okay, cool, 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 cool. How many games were there for the Dreamcast? Do you know off the top of your head?
it's it's less than 400. It's somewhere in the 300s, I think.
Well, yeah, and I mean like yeah, the localized North American title because it's
Yeah,
probably yeah.
and
Yeah,
some of those are not cheap anymore. So
I can assume. I mean, yeah, the Dreamcast Legacy is an interesting one, and it's a shame because it was a really cool system.
yeah,
But
it's my favorite system of all time still, and I think I mean that kind of speaks to the library somewhat, but it also speaks to like that time of my life. And like
mhm.
I was living in Atlanta with my best friend. We had an apartment, and that was the console that we had. I mean, like PS2 came out while I was living there, but still, man, we were playing Dreamcast. Yeah, I remember like specifically like shit like 18 wheeler American Pro Trucker, which is the most generically stupid thing that you would never think you would play for longer than 10 minutes.
Mhm.
It was one night because they had this like side missions you could do where all your job was to park the truck, and it had like a timer.
Yeah.
You had
Yep.
to like park in a specific like place and shit. We did that shit for hours one night, man. And it's one of my favorite like memories like of that apartment. So
That's amazing, and it like I said, it's a shame because the Dreamcast was really wild as a system when it came out because it was one of those systems that was like you turned on or you saw in like Toys R Us or Kmart or wherever it was set up, and when they used to have those stations,
yeah.
and it was like a holy shit moment because the leap from say like PS1 to Dreamcast,
Yeah.
in terms of like polygonal,
Oh
character
yeah.
design, level design, sound design was like crazy, like that was just a really like watershed moment of technology because like I feel like we have less and less of those, it's just like they,
Oh
games
yeah, for sure.
games look good, they play good, they move good.
It
Um
was like the best that we'd ever seen as far as like you remember when arcades were a thing and you had to like to play like the better looking shit. You had to actually go to places and pump money into machines.
Yeah.
Like arcades coming home, it was like mind blowing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you throw in there, it was just so ahead of its time, man. It was destined to fail. Number one, because it was so easy to burn games for it. So like that's
Correct.
all everybody did.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's the first online home console and shit. Like I remember plugging the phone cord into the back of that shit and play NFL 2K.
Yeah.
And like, the connection was so trash. Like you couldn't even play a game, but it was still an option. Like Quake 3 Arena was on that shit, and you could
Yeah.
play like, online on the Dreamcast. It didn't work for shit, but technically you could do it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, Fantasy Star Online started on
mhm.
Dreamcast, and that still has a loyal following. It still has
Yeah,
Fantasy Star Online. They actually have fan servers still up and running for that game.
I
So,
saw that. That's awesome. I love that.
good for them. It's the same thing people are doing with like EverQuest and shit still, but
Mhm.
yeah, Dreamcast is awesome. Highly recommend you guys go get a Dreamcast.
Yeah, and just burn the shit out of the games, bro. Because like I'm the only dumbass out here paying like $200 for a fucking Dreamcast game in 2023.
Hey man, gotta put the money back into your work. It's good. So Mitch, what have you been playing lately? Anything you saw recently you really dug? Anything you've been playing a lot of? I'm gonna crack open a room temperature
I like
Dr.
it.
Pepper. So my
Actually, that's what I've got in this cup is Dr. Pepper. So
hell
I'm gonna
yeah,
wrap
yeah.
it.
Get the synapses firing in my brain after working all day.
Yeah. While we were talking, like before we started recording, I did go see Thanksgiving this morning. I was really excited for that. It was great. It's just a vibe. It's such a like kind of late 90s, early 2000s, that slasher renaissance that Scream brought on. It fits
Mhm.
right in with all that shit. Obviously if you saw the faux trailer in Grindhouse, you kind of know what it is,
Mhm.
and the strongest comparison for me and the one that just kept coming to mind was My Bloody Valentine 3D. It's very much that type of slasher, but just Thanksgiving themed. So some of the
Mhm.
kills kind of cool. There's some Thanksgiving stuff. And like, yeah, the trampoline from the faux trailer is in the movie. It doesn't play out the way it does in that faux trailer. Not to spoil it, but um, it also has my favorite line of the year, hands down. Like,
Mhm.
I was the only one in the theater who laughed, but I laughed so fucking loud, bro. I couldn't help it. It's like a security guard, and he's like, "I work security. I kill at least one person a day," or some shit like that. I fucking lost it, man. That shit cracked me the fuck up.
And
um,
that was directed by Eli Roth. And
yeah,
that and was it written by him too? Do we know, or off the top of your
I,
head?
I don't. I'm sure it was. It had to have been.
Probably.
Yeah.
But is it like a 90-minute movie? What are we talking?
It was an hour and 40 ish.
Oh, good. Yeah.
It goes
So,
quick though, man. Once it just so it starts with similarly to Krampus. It starts with a Black Christmas kind of massacre, not Black Christmas, Black Friday, uh,
nice.
like massacre scene,
Hmm.
and then it kind of. But I mean, in Krampus, it's like a quick little thing during the credits. This is like sets up the movie. Like it starts with like Black Friday, just obviously a Walmart, but it's called Right Mart or some shit like that, and people just going fucking nuts, and it turns into a fucking bloodbath, and then the movie like kind of moves a year ahead, and it basically all kind of ties to that beginning.
Hmm.
But yeah, man, once it goes, it just goes. Like there's almost no downtime. It's really great. Patrick Dempsey's really good. Um, which is like, why is he doing that? He
Yeah.
doesn't like
I'd
he
be
doesn't.
curious to know like what his. I mean, maybe he just did it. Probably maybe he's just was a big Grindhouse fan. He was like,
I
as
hope
soon as
so.
they make that movie, I mean, he doesn't need money. Like I don't,
Exactly.
like
So
he has all that Grey's Anatomy syndication money, right? So
ready,
like he
ready.
doesn't need to do it. So clearly it's probably something that he's just a fan of, which is wild, I
Yeah,
mean,
it's awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
I hope that's the case.
Yeah,
Just
I
like
mean,
you
who knows?
said,
Maybe
certainly
Patrick
wasn't.
Dempsey's like mad chill, like for all you know.
You're right, right. It's certainly like you said. It certainly was not for the money. So it had to.
Yeah.
He read the script and thought it was like really good, which I can't imagine being the case. So it had to have been like it just sounded like something fun for him to do. He chews up scenery, dude. He's really good.
Yeah, he's the man. I mean, I like Patrick Dempsey, he's fine. Like he is what he is. It's kind of, I mean, Yeah, I kind of would really, now that I think about it, would really like to just see him in a bunch of fun horror movies.
Yes,
So
yeah,
this could be the beginning of it, who knows.
yep. Like
Um
Elijah Wood like type of shit.
yeah, exactly.
You're
Yeah,
Frodo.
Elijah Wood.
You're Frodo for that cheddar, then you get to make fucking come to daddy. Shit
Yeah.
like
I dug that movie. That movie's
me
weird.
too. So good.
Uh I love Elijah Wood because he just runs around on his little scooter in Austin smoking cigarettes,
Yeah.
just hanging out. That guy seems rad. I don't know. He's like funding horror movies, being in them.
Yeah.
He just seems all right.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess like you said with My Bloody Valentine, like the movie's just very straightforward, no frills. Like
Mm-mm.
you get what you get, and it's good at what it does, and that's kind of refreshing too. It doesn't have to be uh,
Yeah.
an examination of anything particularly. It's just like here's the
Right.
fun ass movie.
There's obviously, like I said, if it starts with a Black Friday massacre, there's some satire there,
Hmm.
but it doesn't like harp on it. It's not like the focal point of the movie. It's straight up just a slasher, and it's like I said, it does like Scream, where it's like it introduces characters, they come and go, and they always, they're like red herring after red herring. They kind of want you to like not know who the pilgrim is, like trying to figure it out and shit like that.
Hmm.
So it very much follows that formula. But in Eli Roth fashion, it's gory as fuck. Like I said, there's some really fun kills. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Is there anything as gross as the scene in Cabin Fever with the razor?
Uh, yeah,
Oh boy. Because that I think about that scene from time to time,
yeah,
and it's like since I saw that movie, and that really is just and maybe it's just the razor on like the shaving
yeah.
sensation. Like I could feel that when I saw that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So the
yeah.
thing about it is, not like Hostile, more like Green Inferno, right? Where there's some really gnarly shit, but like there almost always seems to be sort of a sense of humor about it.
Hmm.
It's more that style stuff. Like
Cool.
it's fun kills than just like brutality for brutality's sake and shit like that. It's
Hmm.
not just gross to be gross.
Right.
Like they're almost there's almost it's almost like so over the top. It's kind of comical on
Hmm.
some. And there's some straightforward shit and there's some pretty gnarly shit, but most of the ones that you like, especially like the Thanksgiving themed kill, like the those things you put in the end of corn, the spikes. It's in the
Sure. Yeah.
trailer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when he shoves them in that girl's ears and shit. There's stuff like that. It's like, yo, that's fucked up, but it's also funny, you
Yeah.
know?
Some Freddy Krueger shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Have you been playing anything particularly
I have,
besides Gears 2?
but which I've thoroughly enjoyed Gears 2, but the one thing, because you gave me, I think, a month
Uh-huh.
or 3 weeks or so to finish it. I'm like, it's a 7 hour campaign at the longest, right?
Hmm.
But fucking RoboCop Rogue City came out,
Oh, I want to play that so bad.
and it's good. It's
That
real.
looks like a
It's
video
real
game.
good. It is. Oh god, it would have been the most amazing OG Xbox game you ever played. Like it's it's like that. It's from the same studio that the Terminator Salvation game. I
Uh-huh.
don't know if you played that.
No.
Fantastic. It's fantastic. Like that game.
Oh wait, was
It's
it wait, was it the Terminator Resistance or
oh, that
Terminator?
was it. Was that it?
I
There
think
was
it's
something.
Terminator. It's the one that's kind of like Fallout.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Terminator
Okay.
Resistance. Yeah.
My
Yeah,
bad.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's the same studio. And these guys obviously love Terminator and they obviously love RoboCop.
Mm-hmm.
This game it's just all RoboCop, dude. It's so good. There are so many Easter eggs. It's janky, but it feels like it's janky on purpose. Like it looks good, but at the same time, like it's just everything about it's RoboCop. Down to the fact like when you leave the precinct, fucking the car hits the ramp and sparks and shit come out the back. Like everything you remember from RoboCop is in this game.
But you're not even talking about how amazing the violence is in that game.
Yeah, the first trophy I got was for shooting a guy in the dick.
Yeah.
Like the level of detail.
Like so like his base weapon is that like automatic pistol thing whatever he
Yeah,
has,
yeah,
and like you just like shoot dudes in the head, and it's just like the most gnarly like popping like
yeah.
bloody effect I've ever seen, because I watched a dude review it and it just looks totally absurd, and like
It
It
is.
looks like such a throwback of a game. Like
It is 100%. No multiplayer, no bullshit, no nonsense.
good.
It's just a single player game set in the RoboCop universe that pays. It's just fan service, man. It's so fucking good. And I
Hmm.
think it's only like $40. I don't. It wasn't like a full. I don't know. I pre-ordered on Amazon like last year or some shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw something about it. And of course, like for me, like I saw when they were talking about, oh, so and so is making a RoboCop game. I'm like, well, I don't know. RoboCop's not really been in the best situation for a while.
Right.
But then they released that demo, I guess, like I don't know, a month ago or something, the first level or
Oh, okay.
first
Yeah.
area, and they showed people playing it. And I was like, this this is a video game. And then I was kind of worried. I was like, well, does it get boring? Like, is it varied enough? But it seems like that there's plenty to do, that the
Yeah.
combat's fun enough that you don't really get tired of it.
Nope.
And it doesn't
I mean,
overstay its welcome either. So
you know, I can't imagine anybody who loves RoboCop like getting tired of being RoboCop and like shooting dudes in the dick. But maybe that person exists. I don't know, but it's not me because I fucking love it. I'm not done with it yet because I had to finish Gears, but I've probably put 8 or 9 hours on it, and like it's the levels are varied. You're not doing the same shit all the time. You're actually doing police shit. Like it's cool. Like there's a lot of that. They put a lot of attention to detail into it, man. And like,
well, the cool thing I saw with it is that you have like um decisions in the outcomes of certain cases that like
yeah,
make the people of New Detroit like view you as
yep.
like this really cool, you know, do gooder, doing trying to do the right thing, or they just like, or if you do it the other way, they kind of just make you out to be like this fascist.
Yeah,
Like
you could be like you could be like a stone cold stickler to like the law, which is what Murphy would be,
hmm
especially in part one, right?
hmm
But then but it gives you, and they did that in Terminator too. Like you really got to mess with like not so much like the outcome of the game, but your relationships with characters inside the game. You got to
hmm
really change like how, because like in Terminator, like you ended up if you like played your cards right, you could like bang like two chicks in that game, which is like, man, what else do you want from a Terminator? So
but do you go back in time to bang said chick?
no,
No,
I think it was real time, yeah.
no.
Um, but like, it's like so many games say like, oh, your choices make the difference and stuff like that, and they never do, not really. So like to see, and it's like they're not even like a big studio, like the small studios somewhere, overseas and stuff. It's like
Imagine that.
to see them like doing things I wish big studios would do.
Imagine
It's
that.
it's fucking great. So yeah, RoboCop or Rogue City is really fucking fun.
Nice. Um, anything else?
No, like outside of that, man, outside of like work, and then we kind of talked about it a little bit before, but Destiny is kind of a trash fire right now.
Mhm.
It's also the end of the season, and uh, next not this week, next week, the new season starts. So I'll be back on Destiny then. But right now, there's nothing for me to do.
The new expansion comes out next week. Is that correct?
No, the new
Oh,
season starts.
oh, okay, got it.
The new expansion was supposed to be February, but then it's weird. Uh, Somebody leaked that it was getting pushed back to June, but then Bungie came out and said it was still coming out in February. So I don't fucking know. I don't know what's going on with the final shape, but
Hmm. I
yeah, we'll see.
wonder. Let's see. January, March, April, May, June. I mean, it could. So like, if you, it could like it would be like in their. They'd have to put it like towards the end of their fiscal quarter, probably. So
Right,
that would make sense. But who
right.
knows? You know.
They did this before with I think it was Witch Queen that was supposed to come out months before it did, and that
Mhm.
was the first time we got a 6 month season, and that shit was brutal because there was
Mhm.
nothing to do. I used it to work on getting all my like a bunch of weapon catalysts done.
Mhm.
Um, I really don't have that much to do right now, so if the final shape is pushed till June, I
Uh-huh.
mean I work on the backlog, but that doesn't help my Destiny addiction. So
You just jump in and just kind of You just listen to Lance Riddick talk because you miss him.
Yeah. Well, so his kid, he unfortunately passed. So
Yeah.
Keith David is going to be doing the voice for Zavala going forward, which is
That,
fucking great. I
yeah,
love
that
it.
I mean, yeah, why not?
Yeah. I
Welcome
mean,
to
yeah,
hell.
if anybody's going to do it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I mean, Keith David probably has a bigger imprint on video games than a lot of other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
That dude's been in everything.
I got to
Everything.
meet him. I got to meet him at Days of the Dead one year, and oh, such a basic bitch move. I just got like a print from the thing and let him sign it. But
Uh-huh.
if I'd have been thinking, like, I had the idea after the fact, I went to like gone to like McDonald's or somewhere and gotten like an empty fry container and gotten him to sign that because like I can quote Men at Work, and I bet you nobody has ever brought him a fucking French fry container. And I wouldn't have said anything. I just walked up and dropped that shit and just looked at him to see if even he got it. Like if I ever get to meet him again, if he ever comes back to Atlanta, like that's dead ass what I'm doing.
You should. That'd be so. Yeah, I think he would love that. He seems like a chill guy, right? Like, is he chill?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
he's super cool, man. He was such a sweetheart. It was incredible.
Yeah, he seems like it. Like he's really still involved with like, doing the Halo stuff, like the Halo community stuff, even though of course he's not part of it, the new stuff anymore, but like he still is, loves that stuff. Yeah, he just seems like he genuinely loves doing voice acting. I don't know if he loves video games per se, but I think he
Right.
really I don't I don't know, but he really loves doing voice acting, which is great.
Mm,
Um okay. So for me, speaking of big game studios doing things I don't like. So outside of Gears 2, I've been playing the new season of Diablo 4.
okay.
And yeah, I don't know how I feel about that game, man. I like I was really excited for Diablo 4, like all the and we talked a little bit about this when we spoke, weeks ago, whatever.
Yeah.
But like I was really excited for Diablo 4 because I love Diablo 3. I love and not everyone does, but I thought, that was a game I just really liked and I played a lot of it and enjoyed my time with it. The end game is not great, but I had like 6 characters and I had a hardcore character. Like I loved it. And so when Diablo 4 was announced, I was really excited. I really loved the sort of the grimdark, art style they brought back from like Diablo 2. And I was
Mm-hmm.
really excited for it. And like I pre-ordered it like a dummy because I was like, what, I just so excited. And I knew that it wasn't gonna like launch right. Of course it didn't, and whatever. So now it came out in July or August, somewhere around there. And this is November. And no, wait, it came out before that. What am I talking about? When did it come out? Jesus. When
I
did
don't remember.
Diablo?
I just remember a lot of the people I watch on Twitch that started playing it. Yeah, I
I
just
think I no 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 no. I know what happened. It came out in May or June, and then the first like season started
yeah,
in
yeah, that's
July.
typically how they do it. Yeah.
And so the second season is the season of blood or something like that, which is vampires, whatever. So I started a new character. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just like I love like it's one of those things. It's like everything about it objectively is good. Like from how it plays to I mean when I say how it plays, I mean like how the character runs around the screen, how the your attacks work, all that stuff. That all works fine. The environments look great. The stuff they decided to do with the town areas is really great. Um and it has a vibe that I just really the sound design, everything. It just I really appreciate it. But there's
Yeah.
something about the progression of that game, and I can't quite put my finger on it. And I've seen like other people talk about it, and they have a more educated uh explanation of it because they play 400 hours of it or whatever. And I work and I don't have that kind of time.
Right.
um but there's something about the progression of it that's really makes it kind of a chore and boring to play once you get to like level 20. Like after that point, like I just kind of like feel bogged down in it, and it's just
Mm,
it's just unpleasant. Like I really want to like it because I love Diablo, but like I keep thinking about Diablo 3, which is a game that the change the art style to its like more cartoony look.
Yeah,
Um, stuff stuff they were doing like WoW and everything. They kind of made it like a little more cartoony looking.
yeah.
People
Just
didn't
like
really dig that. What's that?
Redfall, like everything has to look like Fortnite now, or nobody's gonna play it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. Now Redfall, there is a something that they're gonna have a documentary in like 3 years or something
mm,
about that game.
if No Clip doesn't drop a Redfall doc, like I'll lose all
Yeah,
faith in humanity.
yeah,
Like,
I know, and yeah, they gotta have some sort of conversation about that game. Anyway, um, but I really love Diablo 3. I really wanted to like Diablo 4, and I'm really not enjoying it, and I feel stupid for spending. I spent like $100 on it because I bought
you
like
know,
the like a
what's
premium edition.
yeah, I have not played it yet. It's something like I don't know. Like I said, I don't have like you. I don't have time for a lot of this
Hmm.
stuff. It doesn't make sense for me to buy something right off the bat if I know I'm not going to play it right away. So like right now, I think for like Black Friday stuff, you can get it for like 35, $40. I may end up picking it up.
It's worth
But
that. It's worth 35
yeah,
or $40 for sure.
yeah, like I'm only gonna play it one time. I'm gonna make one character. I'm gonna go through it, and when I'm done, I'm gonna be done. That's the way I did part three.
Hmm.
I never played two because the only one I played prior to three was the first game, and I played
Mm.
it on PS1, which
Hell
is
yeah.
obviously not the optimal way to play Diablo back then. I didn't even understand how it worked. I thought you were supposed to like just go through the whole game. I didn't know like whenever these stairs were like go back to town, I was like fuck that, I'm going down to the next level. So I just kept getting my ass kicked, and I was like, what am I doing wrong? And so like I didn't understand, the whole concept of like building a character and like leaving and buying better gear and all shit. That was new to me. So
Hmm.
so three I thoroughly enjoyed, but again, I played it until it was over and then I was done. And I'll do the same thing with four.
Yeah, it's one of those games that you play, and maybe it's like Destiny 2 is a lot like this too, in a way. But it's sort of like there's like a real circular rhythm to it. Like
Mm-hmm.
you do things and it keeps circling
Yep.
and circling back to like you just keep doing the same things over and over and getting stronger. And really it's about building a character, making it cool, exploding all the fucking skeletons on screen. Like that's what you want
Right.
to do.
Right.
And I just had a way better time with D3. I played so much of that game, and coming to D4, I feel like I'm just hitting wall after wall of enjoyment. And I guess I don't know. I don't think I'm alone in that. I think there's a lot of people that feel that way. But
I
Blizzard is they're having some problems too. So we'll
yeah,
see what happens with that.
I've never seen something a studio take a franchise that was so beloved and drive it so fucking hard into the ground the way they did with Overwatch. It
Yeah,
just blows my fucking mind.
bro. Like everything about Blizzard is like everything about them is so problematic. And all of the IPs that they have that they've done like like they've just it's like they don't really like their fan base for some reason.
Yes, right.
That's what it feels like. Like you know what I mean? Like it's cool they did like the vanilla WoW, like the classic WoW and like all
Yeah.
that stuff. Like that seems to be like have its community and everything like that. But outside of that, there's a lot of great titles that they just are just like StarCraft 2,
Yeah,
StarCraft.
exactly. Right.
Fuck you. You
Right.
like you're not gonna, like they, and yeah, Overwatch. They promised PvE content, and then they're like 3 years later, they're like, oh yeah, we're not making that happen. And anyway, here's you can buy this skin for $40 or something like that.
Yes.
Like it's so crazy to me, man. How do you anyway? And plus, just like the whole Bobby Kotick Activision,
Yeah, yeah.
all that's just gross. I don't know, but they were bought by Microsoft, and Bobby Kotick is leaving as CEO, which he's probably gonna go and become a villain in some other
100%.
corporation now.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that probably means you might actually get Diablo 4 for free next year.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
they'll probably bring a lot of the Blizzard stuff to Game Pass, which will be cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So hey, more games for our subscriptions, pretty cool, I guess. Um outside of that, what I watched, I got two things that I watched that I really liked. The first thing that I watched was the Half-Life documentary that came out.
Oh, okay.
So Half-Life's been out now for 25 years, and Valve, the developers, they released a documentary on YouTube. It's like an hour and change long, sort
Okay.
of about that. They got all the developers back in to talk about the development of the game, and it's just awesome. Like if like it's just a bunch of game boomers sitting around talking about like how they just barely pulled off one of the best,
Yeah.
first person shooters of a generation, and they even got Gabe Newell to come in and talk, and it to me, so like the line I'm drawing is like, so like Half-Life was a room of like 20 dudes and one lady.
Yeah.
um and they made Half-Life, and they built it off of, so they built it off the source code of the Quake engine, or the Quake 2 engine, that they got from, they went and talked to like John Romero or somebody, and then they ended up getting the source code for it, and they built Half-Life off the source code. And they really parceled this game together. And the big thing about Half-Life, the thing that changed everything, so like 6 months before Unreal came out, and Unreal at the time blew the doors off of everything, in terms of what you could do with a first person shooter in an environment, narrative and storytelling, which was at that time very primitive, but it was something. And then months later Half-Life comes out, and then it was just like it was just everything was undone. It's like they really, you start the game in a tram system or a train. And most first person shooters at that time, when you started them, like you ran out and you were just you're just blasting like immediately, like you're just
Yeah.
blasting, like if you play Doom or Quake,
Yeah.
even Unreal, like you're just in the level and you're shooting shit immediately.
Full design. Yep.
And yeah, and with Half-Life, like you start in a train, and you're going through the Black Mesa thing, and like you're seeing people at work, you're watching robots working, you're being part of the environment. And that was like huge at the time. And it's really funny, I think. I was gonna write something up about this and share the video, just like a little thing, but like it's one of those things that you talk about, and it's like you had to be there, like you had to just be there. Like
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
impossible to be like, oh, like this video game did all these things before all the other video games did it. And like it seems so primitive now when you explain it, but at the time it was
Yeah.
like it just blew everyone's minds. And the doc is really cool because it shows how they like built all the levels. Well, I mean, technically not the levels, because it's almost like one seamless experience. It just
Right.
loads into the next thing.
Yeah.
But how they built it all, and they didn't really know how to connect it all, and they did all of like the narrative and the voiceover stuff later, and that really made the game the game. And I don't know, like if like, and that was like, yeah, like 20 something people, they make the coolest game of that time. And then you have Diablo, which I think Blizzard has like 400 employees or whatever it is. Like,
Right.
it's just it's insane. And I was actually watching a different, not a documentary, but something with Todd Howard of Bethesda.
Mm.
And he was talking about how when he started at Bethesda, they did Terminator System Shock, which was a first person shooter in like 96, I think.
Yeah.
That was his first game. And he said it was just it was 14 or 15 of them, in a room making this game. And then they did Daggerfall next, which was the first Elder Scrolls game.
Right.
And I think he said when he got to Oblivion, there was like, they had 80 people who worked on Oblivion.
Wow.
That number is
That blows
so
my mind.
small compared
Yeah.
to
Like
like
that
where
blows
we're
my
at now.
mind. Fucking Oblivion happened and only 80 people were in, like, holy shit.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy? Like, holy hell, man. So yeah, so I highly recommend, like, if you're interested in like what video game development used to be like, which I always am. I think it's really
Yeah,
cool.
100%.
Yeah, recommend
I
check
didn't know
out
that
that doc.
existed. Like as soon as we're like, I got to do werewolves after, but as soon as I'm done, I'm probably gonna put that shit on tonight.
Oh yeah, man. It's total like millennial dad comfort YouTube video
That's all I
watching of
need.
like, yeah, bunch of guys bald talking about video
Yeah.
games. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. And then there was all, if you're interested in that, Lex Friedman, who's a podcast guy. I don't really always agree with everything this dude talks about, but he had interviewed John Carmack on his podcast. John Carmack was the guy who made, Castle Wolfenstein, sorry, Doom, with John Romero, like the id. He
Right.
made the id company that, And John Carmack's like a superhuman. But there's some snippets. It's like an 8 hour conversation, which is it's a lot. But there are a lot of shorts that they posted on YouTube on different topics, and I highly recommend checking out when he talks about like when he made Doom and all of that. It's just interesting to me where development used to be, how much more the games were fulfilling, I guess. And I feel like they still are. If you go back and you play those games, like they're still great, and yeah, like they're what they are, but they
Sure.
still like make you smile in a way. Um
Yeah.
so yeah, so I highly recommend those.
Okay.
Um and the other thing I watched, which I really love, and I'll try to keep it quick, was I watched this anime series. It's not a television show, but it's on Netflix. It's called Pluto,
Mhm.
and it is a sort of reimagining of Astro Boy, which doesn't really do
Mm.
it. Kind of does it a disservice, and because it doesn't really make much sense. I don't really know much about Astro Boy, but essentially what it is the best way I can explain it. It's kind of like and Watchmen and like Ghost in the Shell kind of feel.
Mhm.
So the animation style is feels it has like a late 90s aesthetic, but done with modern, technology.
Yeah.
And it's essentially about what happens is that there was this war between this Middle Eastern-ish type country and the sort of United Nations. It's like America and Europe and stuff like that. And then essentially they blame this Middle Eastern-ish country. I think they say it's Persia, of having weapons of mass destruction. Turns out they didn't have weapons of mass destruction. There's that to read into it. And they go to war with this country, and it's mostly fought with robots. And there was 7 robots built on the good guys, quote unquote, side. And they were like super. They were all weapons of mass destruction. These 7 AI robots, and they all look like people and everything.
Oh, okay.
So after the war, well, they're humanoid. Some of them look like robots that are in human form, but and some of them wear like skin suits. But after the war, they retired to do like normal ass jobs. And like one of the guys is like this robot who is in the Swiss Alps, and he helps with like doing nature stuff. Gazette, who's the sort of the main character, he becomes a private investigator, and he's sort of the main guy because what happens is that somebody starts killing off these robots um very brutally and leaving them on display. And it's all these sort of 7 robots that are connected to this war. And so there's a connection there, and Gazette sort of goes throughout and trying to figure out like who's killing his friends and everything. And basically it's a movie, it's a not a movie, it's a series about robots with PTSD, which is really
Okay.
wild.
That's
One
cool.
of my favorite aspects of the series is that there is this one robot AI who was not one of the 7, but his name was like Brow 1589 or something. But he had killed a human, and he killed a human, and then they sort of like attacked him and left him down in like the sewer area where he's like sort of uh he's sort of put up against this wall with a sword, and he can't move, but he can still talk, and he's been there since he was put there. And
Right.
the sort of the 7 robots, they sort of all come to him at different times to talk about like existential shit about being an AI unit and having memories and all this stuff. And one of the more
They don't, like, take
fascinating
him down or like try to
what's
help him.
that?
They don't like take him down and try to help, like get him the fuck out of there.
No, because they can't, because he's being he's like contained by like the government in there.
Oh, okay.
So they go down and visit him like on like they have like yeah, no, yeah. If you watch it through though, something really amazing happens though. But so they all come down there and talk to him, and he is just sort of like, he killed a human, he did it for his own reason, and he's very like he is not really sorry about it. Like he did it for his own reason. And one of the more fascinating things that they studied Brow, because they were like, well, what would make an AI unit kill a human? and there had
Mm.
to be something corrupt with his data or something. And they're like, you know what? We found out there was absolutely nothing wrong with his data. It was perfect. And it just turned out he just developed human emotion. And that was like, so like, this is like that kind of stuff is built into the series. It's really violent, really wild. It's just different. It's just very different series. I really dug it. Um, if you have a if you like the idea of like the Watchmen, where like the Watchmen are getting picked off one by one, you don't know who's doing it
Yeah.
kind of thing. It's kind of
Yeah.
like that, but with like really heady like existential stuff. So I really really dug that. But it's a lot. Like I got through it and I was like, oh, I gotta watch like something funny. Like it was because it was like it
Yeah.
ends on such a intense note, and it's just like
Right.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So yeah, highly recommend that. All right. So Mitch, anything to add or anything you wanted to say? I'm sorry, I didn't mean jump into the next thing.
Oh no, you're good. I'm good. And that's
All right.
basically. I mean, look, I have no life, man. That's all I've been doing. I go to work, I come home, I play RoboCop or Gears, and then I go to bed and I do it all again the next day. So
This is a pretty good life, man. I gotta say. Um, all right, so we're actually here to talk about Gears of War 2. Now, Gears of War 2 came out, Mitch. It came out 15 years ago.
it did. Yeah. Yeah. That hurts.
15 years ago. November of 2008. Mitch, what were you doing in November of 2008?
Oh, bro, that is a heavy-handed question, sir, and I don't necessarily want to get into all the specifics. But I had my second child was born, my daughter, who I love
Aw.
dearly, and she had lots of health issues, and we were told that she was not going to make it. So I spent from July until the end of August in three different hospitals with her. But she made it. We came
Mm-hmm.
home, and then yeah, and then I ended up getting divorced not long after that. So
Jeez, man, sorry to bring this
tough
all
year,
back.
tough year for your boy over here. So,
Welcome to Damage for Podcast, where we bring up trauma
yeah,
when we talk
speaking
about
of
video games.
PTSD, let's
Yeah,
talk more about 2008, please.
man, 2008 was. I'm sorry, man.
So I actually,
Anyway, I
so I,
was 1 year out of high school.
oh Jesus,
I was with my first serious girlfriend, and I was going to community. I started in community college before I did 2 years in community college before I got my master's. um, so I was doing that. That's what I was doing in November of 2008. Did not get divorced. Did not get
well,
divorced.
yeah,
Yeah.
Gears 2 might have been the highlight of my 2008 November.
I would think it would be. And I think if everything was going swimmingly for you, I feel like it still would be a highlight.
True. Yeah. So I do have a quick story, just if
Yeah,
you'll allow me.
of course.
Another kid related gear story. This
Mhm.
one's my son who was born in '04. And I think Gears 1 was '03. Maybe it was '04. I don't know. It
It
doesn't
was
matter.
2000. Yeah, it was 2004.
Okay. So
Wait. No, no. First Gears was 2006.
six. Okay. Oh yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. That makes sense. Because
Yep.
like the story is from when he was in kindergarten. And this will kind of give you a little glimpse into my history with the series. So, and also as a new father, learning that we probably can't just do whatever we want to do when the child is around. So, I was super into Gears, loved it. We talked, earlier this week through text about like I've seen that. So, I have seen that making of DVD that came with the collector's edition of the first Gears probably more than any human on Earth outside of Cliff. Um,
Cliff
it's
lived
just
it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But like, I also feel like he sits at home and still watches it. Like,
Probably.
like but I used to watch that shit all the time. It was just so like interesting to me, entertaining stuff like that. So, but anyway, so I went to pick my son up from pre-K one day, and the teacher walks him out, puts him in his car seat on that side of the truck, and she usually she would just walk back to the school. But this day she walks around the front of the truck and she comes to my window. And I was like, oh God, what did he do? Oh Jesus, like I don't know. And so I rolled the window down and she's like, hi. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. And she was like, so Jacob, we overheard my son, talking to some of the other kids about chainsawing people's faces. And I was like, yes, ma'am. That's my fault. I've been playing this video game and he's been watching me play it, and they have guns with chainsaws on them, and you can do that. And she's like, yeah, so it's just that maybe some of the other parents don't want their 4-year-olds hearing about people getting their faces chainsawed off. And I was like, yes, ma'am. She's like, so maybe be more careful with what you do in front of Jacob. And I felt this big. I was so
You should have explained it. You're like, well, actually, the Lancer is a standard issue to the cog, and it has a chainsaw on it. In the Pendulum Wars, it actually had a bayonet, but they changed the chainsaw.
Right. The Retro Lancer came in later, and it was yeah, I can't. My son's pre-K teacher was not interested.
You're like, first of all, they're not people.
Yeah, get it right.
Yeah,
right?
they're locusts. Jeez, oh man, that's pretty good, dude. I mean, does your kid grow up loving Gears though?
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've co-opted. We didn't co-op 5, but we've done the campaigns on every other one together. So
That's awesome. I love that.
Yep.
Hey, get me a kid. I want to play Halo and Gears.
So Halo was the first thing I had to. So he would want to play the game anytime I was on the game. So I did the thing where I thought I was gonna like trick him. So I went and got like an extra controller, but didn't plug it in.
Oh, nice.
Like when he was like 2 and stuff, just to let him hold it. He would fucking cry because it wouldn't do anything. Like he was looking at the screen and pressing buttons and it wasn't doing shit. So he'd get pissed off. Like,
you're gaslighting him, bro.
I'm saying
He's mad.
Yeah. He was not having it. Not having it. He used like I just like put on like Halo 1 and put him in there on like this whatever that first level where you're outdoors and there's like this like big canyon with a bridge and shit. I forget, it's not like the first level because it begins in the ship.
Yeah. No, it's not the Pillar of Autumn. It's when when you actually crash land out of the drop ship. Yeah. So
I would start
Pelican, whatever. Yeah.
Right. I'd start him there and he would hold down the grenade button until they ran out of grenades, and then he'd start crying. So I'd have to like restart the checkpoint so he'd have grenades.
Just give that boy that Halo 1 pistol, man. Just go to town.
That's it.
That thing is nasty.
He's on Legendary, just finishing the game at 2 years old. That
bah, bah, bah. That game just turned 22 years old, I think.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. That is crazy. Yep. Blood Gulch is 22 years old. So speaking of Gears 1, that came out in 2006, and it more or less started as like a tech demo for the new Unreal Engine. Like they were using it as Epic Games, and they're using it as a tech engine or a tech demo. Basically, they're using it as a tech demo for the Unreal Engine. And
it was supposed to be a vehicular combat game too,
for
right?
real?
Yeah, that's how it started.
So funny,
like a Twisted Metal kind of thing. Yeah,
I think there was like another weird story about Epic Games and Fortnite with a similar, not like the car thing, but they had like a similar thing where like the inception of it was like wildly different than what it ended up being. But
Fortnite was a base defense.
Right, that's what I thought. It was like a base defense game.
It was like free to play, but you could pre-buy it for like $30, and it was like a horde mode essentially. You built a base and you had to protect it from zombies. And
Huh.
then almost nobody pre-ordered it, and then like PUBG happened, and they were like, "Well, shit, let's do that instead." And then it became the biggest thing in the fucking universe. So the whole
And
base
that's
shit went out the window.
yeah. Man, I don't know what that is. All Epic Games is now. I think they Epic Games. I think they actually pulled all the Unreal games off of Steam. So like Unreal Tournament, Unreal 1, Unreal 2, you could have taken that game's garbage, but like
Yeah,
all the Unreal tournaments are gone, and I don't know what they're doing with that license
no
now.
idea.
No idea. It's very disappointing, but
Yeah,
anyway, Gears 1 came out in 2006, was basically they're using it to showcase the new Unreal Engine for the new systems that were, on their way out, because the 360 launched in '06, I think, right?
something like that. Maybe a year before. I don't remember. I
Yeah,
remember
so
camping
so
outside
so
of Walmart to get one, but I don't remember what year it was.
yeah, you already had a kid by then, so like it's just all blur. Um,
Yeah,
so it came out in '06. Obviously it was met with, you know, sorry, burping up Dr. Pepper.
same.
Yeah, yeah, critical acclaim. Cliffy B obviously was attached to it. Cliffy B has already come up with Unreal, Jazz Jackrabbit.
Yep.
But yeah, but he this was his big project, and it did really well. Now the first Gears game is pretty bare bones. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
basically there's this team, you get this guy out of jail named Marcus Phoenix. There's this team, there's this this race of creatures called locusts that have stormed, Aphira, or Sarah, sorry, the
Mm.
planet Sarah, and they're wreaking havoc. Nobody knows why they arrived. You really don't even really find out why they arrived at all in that game.
Urgence Day. They come from the ground.
Yeah, E-Day, yeah, good old E-Day.
Yep.
And so yeah, the locusts, they come out of the ground, and anyway, this is about this war that's going on between them. And it's pretty bare bones at the end. There's that train level that I hate, and you fight General Rom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was sort of it. And then it got greenlit for I guess a sequel, and Cliff Bleszinski, the thing he said that he wanted to do with the sequel is he wanted to make it more badass. That was literally all he wanted to do. And
And he
uh
did.
he delivered. I feel like he really delivered. Now,
100%.
yeah, Gears of War 2 follows, I would say, in a sequel, one of those like perfect sequel categories of like you have Halo 2, you have Mass Effect 2, you
Yep.
have Gears of War 2,
Yep.
like games that basically took the formula that the first game had created and then just like jacked it up with steroids
Yep.
and open the world up. I think that's the big thing too, is that Gears 2 really opens up the narrative of the world,
Yep.
and does some more like tries to dig in more with the characters and the lore around, who the locusts are and what the hollow and all that shit.
Right.
And what the locusts, why they even came to the surface of the earth, or not the earth, Sarah anyway, which is because of this flood like infectious version of them that
Yeah.
they're trying to get rid of.
Which I forgot completely. Like I'm really glad you asked like to do this because I completely forgot that part. I felt like the Lambda didn't come in until the third one. I don't know
well,
why I thought that, but
well, yeah, it's crazy because Gears 2 hints at a lot of stuff and follows up on none of it. Like it's just like, hey, here's this lambent shit, and then it's like credits, and you're like, okay,
yeah,
what? Like what this queen? Like who's this queen? What? Like what is it?
right.
And like I think that's what's really so like just like the Empire Strikes Back of the Gears universe, right?
It's
Sets up
exactly what it is. It's
Yeah,
exactly what it is.
sets up all this crazy stuff that leaves you with more questions, but like not in a way where you're like, I don't get it. More like, oh my God, like there's more to this
Yes.
than I realized. And
Right.
so yeah, so I'll just cut to you, Mitch, because I'm talking a lot. But uh explain your experience. I don't know when the last time you played Gears 2 was, but just going back to it now as a older gentleman.
No, man, you could say it. It's fine.
Yeah, old man, 15 years past the launch date, going back to it. I played it on like the Game Pass. So like I played. I don't know if you played it on disc, but it just basically like upreses everything. It looks
Yeah, I,
clean, but
I still have my original copy because the 360 was kind of the first that era, that whatever that gen was, I forget, of
I
consoles
think
was
it's
the
Gen
first.
5. I think it's Gen 5.
That's where
Could
I
be wrong.
stopped letting GameStop give me 7 cents for things that I paid $60 for, and I just kind of kept everything. So I still have my copy of all the Gears games. But I did play it on Game Pass. It looks great, man, for a game that old. Like I don't whatever they did to it, like the Series X, it looked fantastic.
Hmm.
And like I said, I remembered a few things. Like I remembered the Maria thing. I remembered the worm level with the ventricles and shit.
You can't forget the worm level.
Like that's the thing this game does that, like, for me anyway, the Empire Strikes Back comparison is perfect because
Mhm.
it introduces all these ideas and does nothing with most of them. But what it really does is it puts you in set pieces that just are so memorable. Like whereas the first game, like you said, is fairly generic. And I do remember some things. I remember like the Berserker fight, the first
Mhm.
time you get hammered on, stuff like that. But outside, man, I couldn't tell you shit about any why we were anywhere we were, any of the level. It's nothing. Like story wise, I remember nothing. But this one, I was surprised like how many. I was like, oh shit, right, and this is next, and like the when you're riding the fucking those flying
The
whatever
Ravager or the Reaver. Sorry.
Reavers, yeah, like you're
Yeah,
on a
yeah.
it was like an on rail shooter level, and like there's
Mhm.
the tank level, which I remembered that. But like another thing it did, it introduced such more of a variety within the Locust. Like in the first game, is basically your generic troopers. I know the Corpser shows up at the end. Then you have like the little monkey clawy
The
guys,
the wretches, I think they're called.
wretches. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but there's not that much of them. But this one introduced like like so many different like so you had boomers, but this one introduced like the one with the minigun,
The Grinder.
grinder, yeah, grind,
Grind.
yeah. And then like the flamethrower guys. So like it basically, like you said, it took everything that was cool about Gears One and just upped it like 100%.
Yeah,
Um,
bro. In the first game, you fight one Brumac. In Gears of War 2, they're like, what if you fight a bunch of
yeah, what
Brumacs?
if there's always a brewback? Like, and then what if you get to be on one? Like
Yeah,
it's
what if you like yeah, what if you what's it like well it's in like Book of Boba Fett too, like where he rides the Rancor. But I think I'm
Mhm.
thinking of like almost like what like riding a troll. Did they do that in Lord of the Rings where they rode one of those like those cave trolls or something like that? Like it kind of reminds me of that. You're like you don't your Lotor knowledge is
Not
low.
a Lord of the Rings person
No
at
worries, no worries.
all.
But I think it
But
reminded me of that where they like get on and they're like using like the chains to like fucking move the
yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah. Well, and speaking of Rancors, they kind of did that in that Power of the Force, the sequel. I think it was, is it Power of the Force, whatever that 360 PS3 Star Wars
Force
game.
Awakens? Or no, no,
No, the one you replayed it recently,
yeah,
I think.
Force Unleashed. Oh my
Force,
god.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's like baby Rancors and shit. I'm like, I never even thought of that. That's fucking great. Stuff like that. There was so many things in this game that are like that. And I was like, that never even occurred to me. Holy shit. Like, look at all this shit we get to do, right? And then but it's like, it's so funny because obviously it's a product of the time when it comes to like it's like bro metal, like the dialogue and like shit like that. But still, it tells a compelling narrative and in a way that the first one just didn't. I was like, if you can play this, if you start Gears 2 and you just play the beginning, and when dude gives that speech, if you're not fucking hyped to go fuck up some fucking locusts, like we are not the same. Because like that speech, I was just like, fuck yeah, let's go. Come on, Marcus. Like, holy shit. Like, and then like following it and like just from set piece to set piece, it literally felt like, like Empire or like Jedi, where it's like, this shit is so cool. How could it get cooler? And then it fucking does.
Yeah, so one of the things that I really appreciate about Gears 2, which I have started playing Gears 3, I'll say.
I haven't started
Um
yet. I'm
yeah,
excited.
yeah, first of all, Gears 3 is, well, we'll talk about it at some point, but what I really love about Gears 2 are the set pieces, which I feel like happen the whole time. Like
Mhm.
the level design in Gears 2 is so creative and fun. And
Yeah.
even if it's like a product of its time and whatever the whatever they could and couldn't get away with, the restrictions they had with the system,
Mhm.
um they really tried, and it's really fun. I mean, even the early on, right? Like you get on those I think they're grind lift, whatever they are. The ones where you meet Dizzy for the first time.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Got the cowboy hat.
yeah,
Um
yeah.
so when you're on those and then you have to like fight you have to like fight locusts jumping up it, and then you have to like jump
Oh
onto
yeah, yeah.
the one next to you, and then
Yep.
like the other one goes off the bridge, and then there is the set piece where you're driving the centaur, which is like the tank thing, and that's like fun to drive around or whatever. And then you get to like the lake with the ice, and like there's
Yeah,
pieces like collapsing, and you have to drive around it, and like I die a lot in that because I tend to like,
I did too.
yeah, I just always fall into the water. um but like, and that's really like, that's just, a game from 2008. But
That's the video game part, right? Like it's not a movie, so like there has to be like the video gamey parts. So yeah, shit like that is where that kind of comes in. But
yeah, but it's memorable, and it's fun. Like it's fun, and there is the there's a couple of with the on rails reaver
yeah,
fights. There's even a boss fight on one,
yep.
which is
Oh,
just
that was
like,
so good.
yeah. And that guy is such a great villain.
Yeah, I can't remember, is it Cantus or something like that? No, that was those are the bow guys. They're called Cantus. I can't remember his
Yeah,
name.
I forget his name, but
That
he,
boss fight was the shit. Like when he's like knocking the pillars down and shit with his like chainsaw fucking
yeah.
blade. Like holy
Like
shit, man! This game and the chainsaws, they're everywhere.
like good use of the environments.
Yeah,
And there's a boss fight with a leviathan in an underground lake where you have to like shoot its eye, and then you have to go in and throw a grenade in its like
yeah,
butthole mouth, whatever it is.
right.
And then like, like stuff like that is, at every turn the game tries to really set a scene or a feeling of a level, um, which once again, talking about current video games, and when I say current video games, I always mean more like AAA stuff, because there's a lot of people doing indie games that are really making like
Oh my
really
god,
great stuff.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, but when we talk about the game industry, I always like to really just kind of broadly paint it with the AAA studios. But
Right.
um, it's just the level design is so creative in Gears 2, that
God, man, yeah. It feels like in the first game they kind of had to like prove proof of concept. And
sure.
I remember speaking of that making of DVD, there was a woman who was like somebody at Microsoft who was checking in with Epic, and they had to fight for the chainsaw bayonet. Like they were against it. They were like, it's too violent. And Cliff was like, no, no, you just have to see it. It's really important. Whatever. They had to fight for that shit. And I feel like once Gears One did what it did, then he got to like get out his little like notebook of all the cool shit he wrote down that he wanted to put in the first game, but they wouldn't let him. And at that
Mm-hmm.
point, they were like, just do it. Just make whatever it is you're gonna make. Like it's gonna sell. It's gonna make millions. Like just go. And like shit like towards the end of I think it was chapter 4, right? Where they're in the building that's getting like falls over and shit. And they get in an
Yeah.
elevator. And it's not at all how elevators work because like but because the door is like opening and closing and
Yeah.
stuff. And it's like horizontal. It's no longer so it wouldn't be moving. But at the
Yeah.
same time, like, how fucking cool is that? Just and
Yeah.
there's like Rumac who's like with his fucking forearm cannons like blasting through and shit. It's so like over the top fucking 90s action movie like set piece after set piece.
Yeah. And I think that is what's so great about just Gears 2. I think and also perspective. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about here too, with like the elevator, right? Like the you feel like you're in the perspective of the characters, and it feels, I think one of the things I wrote down is that let me pull it up. You just feel like you're being constantly overrun. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like you're winning ever. And
Never. Yeah. Like,
like you feel like you're part of this war where it's not going to end well.
and even
And
the game speaks to that too, because there's that one point when you finally get to the locust stronghold or whatever, and Cole's like, and when you finally bring in, you turn the beacon on and the drop pods come in, and then they're like, and Cole's like, yeah, we're fucking them up. He's like, no, we're not. They're running from other locusts. Like,
yeah.
and that's where they introduced the Lambit, and I was like, oh shit, I forgot about it. It was in this one. Like, yeah,
Yeah, and
we are so under. You never feel like a superhero. Like you go through like shit that obviously you would never survive as a human being, but you never feel like fuck like Master Chief, right? You never feel like you're, especially like if you play the games on like the harder difficulties, they'll kick your ass real fast. So, um, yeah, you never feel like we're in control here. Like,
yeah, it feels like you're constantly like the game has a really good set. I guess also too, the game has a really good feeling of momentum, right? Like the levels are designed in a way that pushes you in a specific direction. It makes you want to look at certain things and do certain things and really see what the game developers had in mind for the player. And
yeah.
that is really good game design, and
I
I
agree. I love that. And I love like even the inclusion of like when it tells you like it puts the eyeball up there and it says, yo, press Y, you're gonna want to see this shit.
Mhm.
Like stuff like that. Because I'm
Yeah.
like, man, what if I wasn't looking that way? And look, that fucking building's like falling off the side of the cliff. That's badass. If I missed that, like, I love that it like they're like, yo, look at this. This is cool as shit. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good game for a player to have their like it's a really good game for the player to be shown what the developer wanted you to have from this experience. Like Cliffy B was like very specifically like, I want you to have this exact badass moment
right,
that I want you to have. And we've
right.
all had it, like we all had the same moment, but we all reacted like kids for all
Yeah,
these
right.
different moments because they're incredible. I don't know that there's a point in Gears 2 where I felt like I didn't know where to go, what to do, or stuck, or anything like
No,
that.
not at
Um,
all.
I think, and I said this to you, my only gripe with the game is the final boss, which is really not. It's like a lambent brumac that you use the Hammer of Dawn on, and the Hammer of Dawn's like this like satellite laser positioning weapon, and you kind of just have to do it right, and then it's over. Like if it just fades to black,
Yeah.
you beat the game.
I feel like Rom was like a way cooler, like final boss fight, even though it was also kind of cheap. And
Yeah,
but like, man, I mean, again, it's like kind of lame from a gameplay perspective. Is that Brumac is the fact that a fucking Brumac like basically becomes the thing is so badass.
it
Like
is so badass.
I don't want to change it. Like
Yeah.
like
Yeah, so the big thing about Gears 2, what it introduced is the lambency. And what that is essentially a virus that's caused by emulsion. And emulsion in the Gears world is like their energy source. It's like a fuel that's like it's like yellow and glowing. And what happens is that it causes some sort of infection that acts like the flood, where it like gets a host and then it turns them into like a
like
tornado.
sort of like Venom, right? Like like Bane in Batman. Like
Yeah, yeah, kind of like it makes them like super duper,
yeah,
and then they also explode.
yeah, that. Well, like, Bane doesn't explode when he. Well, I mean, I don't know. He's never really died, so we don't
That's
know
true.
if he would explode.
Sure, I don't know if he juiced himself up so much he might. We don't know.
Exactly.
Um, so the Lambacy, so basically, like it gives an explanation as to why the locusts were on, like why they emerged into Sarah, like what they're running from, what they're trying to do, and it introduces a whole new villain that becomes a really big part of Gears 3.
Yeah.
But the Lambent themselves are like kind of like dropped into this game, and then they're gone. Like it's you have the
Yeah.
Brumac at the end, but there's like when you're in I think it's the Hollow, where you're below New Jacinto, or not New Jacinto, the regular Jacinto. You're below Jacinto, and you find like all these dead locusts, and you find like the yellow green toxic gooey stuff. Um, and like you're just like, what the fuck? And then it's kind of like, it's not as big of a deal like gameplay wise that you're going to fight a lot of them until the next game, which I guess they were setting up for at this
Yeah,
point.
that's why. Like, I honestly, like, again, like I said, I thought they were introduced. I thought that was the big thing for three was they introduced Lambent. I completely forgot they were in this one.
Yeah, because it's kind of like
Somehow I forgot a
big
Brumac
part.
became a fucking thing at the end of this game. I don't know how I forgot that.
I kind of forgot it too. Like the last time I played it, my save file said 2016.
Well, I
So
showed you mine. It was 2011.
yeah,
Yeah, I played it on fucking. I completed it on
insanity.
Insanity in 2011. So that probably was the last time I played it. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I think I would dip after I beat it on Insanity. I think I'd be like, I think
Well,
I beat the game.
it's one of those things. Back then, I was way more of an online player. I had, some of my best friends I met through this Xbox Live website back even before my kid was born. It was like, yeah, I remember I had this like demo disc that showed how like Xbox Live was going to work. And then like my brother, who was like way more tech savvy than me, like came to the house and he was like, "Oh yeah, we could do that. We could set it up, no problem." So I signed up for Live, and then I found this website um, called gamertagdatabase.com, and it basically was just a forum. And I started like kind of posting on there and stuff. Dude, I met people on that site that to this day are some of my like best friends. And
That's
specifically,
amazing.
yeah. So specifically, my buddy Frozen, um, he was in Tennessee at the time, and he's the first person I ever like met via the internet that I went and met in real life. But we used to play like Star Wars Battlefront, Halo, like Halo. Obviously, Halo 2 was the first one on Live, but
Hmm.
when Gears happened, it was like a big deal. So we played through. I know the first three. We didn't play four together because he went to the Navy and like he's moved around the country and stuff. He doesn't get to play a lot. We played Destiny together some, um, but the Gears and Gears specifically the first two Gears, man. I remember we played so fucking much. Like the
Hmm.
multiplayer, we did the campaigns together, and like I said, I went through the campaigns with my son. So I've probably played Gears 2 since I finished it on, but I don't know that I unlocked another achievement outside of like getting Insanity
Getting
done. So
Insanity, yeah.
that probably was with Frozen. I don't remember. But he was one of these motherfuckers who, like, if there was a harder difficulty for something, that's what he wanted to do. And I'm not. I'll play that shit on easy. If there's no achievement tied to like finishing it on a certain difficulty, easy all day, cuz like I'm trying to move on to other stuff. Like I only have limited time, right? So this motherfucker, he was hardcore. He was like, he's like, I didn't get pissed off enough on medium. Fuck my world up. Like this. It's
Like
like, no.
we have different approaches to video games, man.
But he would drag me with him on these
Uh,
these foolish fucking like endeavors to play games on hard difficulties. And I'm
Jeez.
like, I'm not him. I'm not that guy,
I
man.
am not I'm not that guy either. Medium difficulty. We're good. I'm good. That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
like this is the difficulty that the developer decided is probably best suited to play their game. There's no
Right.
reason for me to make it worse on myself. And he's like, yo, fuck my life up. Like,
Yeah.
all
No, it
right.
already is, homie. I'm good. It's I just got divorced. This is all that's keeping me together right now. Video game.
My life is already in shambles. Like,
um, yeah, I wasn't even really gonna touch actually on the multiplayer because I was just really the campaign, the story stuff. But I mean, Gears 2 was the first one that had horde mode.
yeah,
Yeah, so that was like a big. I mean, horde mode is just so
it,
much fun.
it's so much fun,
It
man.
is so much fun. I
I'm
mean,
so like I love to play online with friends, but I'm such a PvE person. I
uh,
don't give a shit about PvP in most things.
yeah,
So in the first Gears, they only had PvP, and at that time, like I said, we played online a lot, so we had enough people um, so we could do private matches at least. Like I didn't have to match up against pubs. So even when like I was getting my ass kicked, I was still laughing and having fun with friends and stuff like that. But I'm really not a PvP person. I'm old. I don't have the reflexes for it. Um, sometimes Destiny makes you do PvP, and I fucking hate it every time.
I just know that there's some 12-year-old out there that's just way better at the video game than I am.
I know.
And I shouldn't even bother.
Exactly. I'm like, hey. So a lot of times on the Destiny stuff, I'll play it like odd times where I think the 12-year-olds are asleep. So it's like 7 a.m. on Sunday. I'm like, fuck yeah, Crucible, let's go. Let's get this shit over with. I end up matching up against people in like different parts of the world and shit because everybody else where I am is fucking asleep like they should be.
Yeah. Not Mitch. It's 7 a.m. I'm playing Destiny. That's what we're doing, dog.
Let's grind this shit out real quick.
Yeah, grind faction rep. Let's go. Do they still have faction rep? Is that still a thing?
No.
Anyway. Yeah, so set pieces that the worm is probably one of the most creative, interesting, like memorable scenes of this whole game. It's pretty early on. And there's this giant worm that's just sort of eating around Jacinto, and they're the locusts are planning on like collapsing Jacinto, which is the last bastion of humanity now that 80% of the world is dead. And so they get into that worm, and I think Cole like immediately is like, we're gonna cut ourselves out of this bitch. He like takes a chainsaw. And Marcus, I love there's something about Marcus's delivery all the time because he's so like Cole will say something like that, like very theatrical and over the top, and Marcus will be like, no, we gotta let's just give it a second.
Yeah.
Like he's so straight. He's just so like there's no theatrics about Marcus.
He's very to the point.
He's very to the point.
Like he's like, whoa, let's carve this bitch up, baby. Yeah. He's like, and then Marcus is like, nah. Too cold to shut the fuck up. We gotta do this thing.
Yeah. Also, this is of an era where like they could do things like call the Hive Queen or the Locust Queen a bitch. Like they had like there's a scene where Cole
times in one sentence.
Yeah, Cole picks up the intercom like in the Locust place.
Oh, that was so good.
And he's just like he's just like yelling about how the Locust Queen's a bitch, and like it's just.
First of all,
like it's incredible.
I love that they even have a PA system down there. Like, what? That makes no sense.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Why would they have a microphone that the Locust Queen needed to like say her shit to?
No idea, dude. And what was the oh my god, what was the other one that was oh yeah, when you like pick up like Dom or like anyone, he's like, walk it off, pussy.
Yeah.
Like it's just
it's so bro metal, like it's such like frat house ridiculousness, but it's also it's comically stupid, so you just laugh at it. It's not
I don't think like yes it is like very bro-y, but I also think that it's very wink and like it's clearly like they're having fun with it. It's not meant to be like a real. It just comes off as more goofy and fun, and it kind of livens up the action a little bit sometimes rather than
like the fact that they cast the guy that was Terry Tate, office linebacker, as Cole. Like that tells you everything you need to know, right? Like that's the level of like absurdity we're going for here, right? Like if you've never seen Terry Tate, office linebacker, that shit is amazing. Like go to YouTube when you're done listening to this amazing podcast, which is
there you go. Yeah, no, it's great. He inhabits that character so well. Once again, when you get to Gears 3, they do more with it. And that's like so okay, so I'm gonna be the dick now and be like, so in the books.
I'm interested in this part, so please be a dick.
Yeah. So the first Gears of War book is called Aspho Fields, and it takes place between Gears 1 and Gears 2. And the current the current plot line of the book is just sort of like everybody kind of fighting the locust. There's nothing really super important that happens. They're just kind of killing locusts, trying to stay alive. Bernie Mataki, sorry, shows up, and she is a character that the author Karen Travis made for the books for more of a female presence in the
Mm.
books. And then eventually you'll see Bernie in Gears 3 and Gears 4, I think. But what the book Aspho Fields is about, it flashes back to the Pendulum Wars when the governments are all fighting, and Marcus and Dom are really young, and they're like just very new green cogs. And the story is really about this. They're going to Aspho Fields because the UIR, which is the not the cog but the Independent Republic of Nations or whatever, they have the Hammer of Dawn information. They're creating the Hammer of Dawn, and Adam Phoenix, Marcus's father, wants to get that information so they can create the weapon of mass destruction. So they send the cogs to Aspho Fields. It's supposed to be an in and out mission. But while they're there, Carlos, who's Dom's brother, dies, which is a big thing because they all grew up together. Marcus, Carlos, Dom, they all grew up together as kids. And Marcus, his dad is like a very famous, wealthy scientist. His mom's a biologist. And he decided he wanted to be a cog because Dom and Carlos were going to be one. So he kind of gets shunned by his father and everything for that. But so Carlos dies, and also who dies there is Helena Shroud, who's Anya's mom. So Helena is she runs the CIC, which Anya eventually does, which is like the communications. So like when doing the walk and talk and they're talking to Anya, her mom originally had done that, and Anya was like 14 years old, and she had to like hear her mom die like on the radio, and then immediately like basically she had to take over the radio responsibilities, like do that. So like Anya's story is really interesting, like where she goes with that.
Yeah.
So after Gears of War 2 happens, then there's the next two following books, and what happens is that Jacinto at the end of Gears of War 2 sinks. Like the game ends on such a crazy cliffhanger, right? It's just like the city collapses, they flood it to get rid of the locusts, and then everybody's on Ravens. They're just flying out to the sunset on Ravens. What eventually they do is they end up on this island of Vectus, and they go to a cog settlement that's been there, untouched by locusts. And so they get there, and Prescott's the dude who gives the speech at the beginning of Gears of War 2. Turns out he's a huge dick, by the way. But and the other person that's leading the cog is Victor Hoffman. So they go with all the cog and all the people they got out of Jacinto, and they go to this island, and they show up, and they're like, "We're here now," and everyone's like, "Great." And so they try to like set up on the island. What eventually happens to fast track this conversation, of course, is that the Lambent start to show up, and the next four books actually deal with the cog trying to create like a new society on Vectus, the new Jacinto, and essentially Gears 3 starts basically where they can't be on the island anymore, and they're like going around on these like not cruise ships but like battleship things because they can't live anywhere because of the Lambent. And the other part of that is that there are these groups of people called the Stranded, and they're essentially like people who don't want to do anything with the government, but they're also like wildly criminals, unfortunately. So like they murder people, they thieve, they rape, all this stuff. And so not to be fair to the rapists, yeah, we're gonna get canceled here, right? But to be fair for how the Stranded started was, at the beginning of the Locust War. So like the Pendulum Wars end, the cog win. There's 6 months of peace basically, and then Emergence Day happens, and then Emergence Day happens. People are getting murdered, blah blah blah. So then they decide to use the Hammer of Dawn, which they stole from the Aspho Fields, to basically burn 80% of the planet, or Sarah, to get rid of the locusts. Turns out the locusts, of course, are underground, so it doesn't really do much. But they gave Victor Hoffman and Chairman Prescott gave everybody 3 days to get to Jacinto from all over the planet, basically.
Yeah.
So what happened is that the people who survived that basically were like, yo, fuck you guys. Like you basically put us to our deaths, and only like, some of you are going to survive. And like that is the drive. That was the initial driving force behind the Stranded. Of course, basically lack of education, all kinds of things lead to them being criminals and doing horrible things. But it's what the COG are kind of always facing, are the Stranded out in the wilderness. And they're on that island of Vectis where they are. And so are some of the remaining people of the UIR, the Indies. But I don't know where I was going with this exactly, other than the books basically where Gears 2 ends and Gears 3 starts. There's a lot of filler that we'll probably talk about more later on. But booting up Gears 3, it's really wild. Like, I was trying to look at it, like, if I had no idea what the books, like, if I hadn't read the books, which I hadn't read the books when I initially played Gears 3.
Like I'll be doing.
I'd be like, what, like, how, that's 2 years after Jacinto sinks, and you're just on a ship with Marcus. And you're like, what is, like, how did we get here? So, that's really interesting. And so the person who wrote those books was the lead writer on Gears 3, and it's sort of like her send off to all the things that she worked on for all these years and wrote all these books about. So I will say, so far, narratively in Gears 3, the game is really, really phenomenal. But I do think gameplay wise, Gears 2 is definitely the best campaign. Is it does the most with the little it has. And even though I didn't remember most of it, I think it's the most memorable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. First, like, for me, for sure. Yeah.
Like
I said, the set pieces are so, like, especially like compared to Gears 1. Then I was, like, we talked about doing 3 and Judgment. I don't remember jack shit about Judgment. I remember thinking 3 wasn't great, but I'm excited to get back into it now, kind of with 2 fresh on the brain, and then, like, having, you and I have been talking about Gears so much lately.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Right. I think I have and I haven't played through all of Gears 3 yet at all. I just finished the first act. But I think it's rewarding. It's a rewarding game if you've been following these characters, like in the comics and the books and stuff. Oh, that's what I also wanted to mention is Gears 2, the story was written by Joshua Ortega. And he is a big comic book guy. He did a lot of Star Wars stuff. He did the Gears comics, and he also did like some Marvel stuff. I think he did Spider-Man or something. So
I'm familiar with the name. I couldn't tell you right offhand like anything specifically he did, but I know the name, so that's I didn't know that.
Cool. Yeah. So he was he's been kind of all part of it too this whole time. And I think that was really interesting. The other thing that I forgot to talk about was the New Hope facility, which they just drop on you. And then you're running out of there, like, avoiding hail. And then they're just like, man, that was kind of crazy, right? And then you're just right. Like, well, there was locusts and tubes in a facility. What was that?
Yeah. Like, basically, it ends up being like just an excuse to bully some weird British AI computer system.
There's definitely like a 2001 Space Odyssey, sorry, David, you can't do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they kind of hint at the stuff that you find out about, essentially, like, humans made the locusts, and like Adam Phoenix, like Marcus's dad, was part of that.
Right.
So like that stuff kind of starts but they don't follow up on it for the rest of the game. There's you hear his dad's voice, like, on a computer at the end, but they're just like, is that who I think it is? And like, yeah, and they're like, all right, like, gotta go.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like the end of Cloverfield, right? Where it's like, you sit through all the credits just for like this one brief thing where it's like it's still alive, and then it's
Yeah,
like okay,
cool,
and then
cool.
like Cloverfield ends up like turning into like the Dimension Hellraiser films where they're obviously were not meant to be Hellraiser films because Cenobites come in for like a 5 minute scene at the start, and then at the very end,
So, they started doing that like Hellraiser 5, I think.
yeah, Inferno, yeah.
Yeah, Inferno was the first one they started doing that. Cause yeah, 1 and 2 I love 2. I know people who don't really like 2 as much, but
I
I
love
like
to.
2 a lot. 3 is like so. I like 4 for how batshit it is, but
No,
it's
I
not a good
agree.
movie. Like it's not
Like
Hellraiser in space.
the the best my favorite memory of four was taking the girl that I was dating in high school to see it in the theater, and she didn't talk to me for like 3 days, and I begged her to go see anything else because like she was not a horror person, but she knew I wanted to see it. But then she was so mad after the movie she didn't talk to me for like the rest of the
No,
weekend.
now the reason was she mad because it's a bad movie, or is she mad that like it was just gross, or like
She was I don't know how to say
bloodline?
she was more into religion than I am, and
Gotcha.
so
Yeah, Clive Barker
the
don't
movie
really
called
care about that there.
Hellraiser, like, like, yeah, but it's kind of one of those things. Just like she just hated it, and
Yeah,
she hated me for wanting to see it. So
Mitch, I would have liked it. Okay,
I
I would have.
mean, clearly it didn't work out, so
Yeah,
it's fine. Good. I'm sure she's happy with somebody who doesn't like Hellraiser now, and that's good for her. That's like
do any of us like Hellraiser anymore? I mean, I like I that
I
last movie
love
that
the
came
new
out.
one.
What's
I
that?
love, I love the new one.
I
So
thought it was totally, yeah. I thought it was very. I thought it was a gift to people who liked Hellraiser movies, who
yep,
for so long have been getting shafted by Hellraiser movies.
yes, 100%, yes, absolutely,
Good creature
absolutely.
design.
Yep,
Uh, yeah, I dug it. I dug it. That was on Hulu, right? They put that on
yeah,
Hulu.
and no disc yet, which pisses me off. Like I would love to buy it, but I can't. They
Welcome
did
to
put
20.
Prey out. Like Prey actually got a blue, so I'm hoping. But like the Ritual never like we were talking about David Bruckner before we started. So the Ritual never got a disc. I have a bootleg that somebody like put out and shit just because I wanted to own it.
Yeah,
Uh, and then yeah, Hellraiser nothing so far, but
that's wild.
Prey came out, so there's still hope.
Prey was great too. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
Hulu be making these like horror moves now.
right. They should know though, man. I feel like out of like every movie like fandom, like horror nerds are the most likely to want to buy the fucking movie after you see it. Like we don't just want it stream, man. We need the disc. We need like the bonus content and shit. And
Yeah, yeah. You want the
like nah,
commentary tracks?
yeah. And they're like, nah, we're good. You know, you paid for our streaming service. We don't need that extra like 10 spot. And I'm like, well, I would give it to you though. Like, like
Bruh, they did what was it? Scream Factory, because I watched I rewatched the first Silent Hill. Actually, I rewatched the first two Silent
yeah,
Hill movies.
yeah.
But the first one's a
That was a
Scream. They
great
did a
episode.
Scream Factory release for that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I know. I agree. Like I got to upgrade my DVD. Like I was all about it.
Yeah, and the cover art's great, and that's a movie. I think it deserves it. I don't know. It felt like an
I would,
outlier for a lot of the Scream Factory stuff, but
yeah.
I thought it was good. Um, all right, you got another podcast to do, so let me. I think I hit all of my notes. I think 15. Okay, my final thoughts are: I
Mhm.
think Gears 2 is still a banger 15 years later. It will be a banger 15 years from now, I think.
Yep.
Like everything about it is just good game design, good user experience, fun to play. I think the Lancer rips in this game. The Lancer is just the OP assault rifle that just rips,
Oh,
and they nerfed it in 3, and you
yeah.
will know
Okay.
what I feel like,
No,
because
let me show you.
ah,
I'm right back. Like, wait, I meant to bring this in before I forgot. Hold on.
you gotta take a dump.
No, I'm good.
Dun, 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 dun. Oh my God.
I have a Lancer.
How did you get, where did you get that?
So so the guy I'm gonna do werewolves with as soon as this is over, he was at an E3. He worked for Game Shark for years. And one year at E3, like they had these, and like him and his buddy, they were like on sale for like less than $100. And he was like, they both decided like the best idea in their lives was to own this ridiculous thing.
I
And then
mean, pretty good idea.
so he was getting ready to move to Florida a few years ago, and he was like, so I have a life-size Lancer. Do you want it? And I was like, is that a serious question? Obviously, I want a fucking life-size. Of course I do. And so bless his heart, he cracks me up. But so we used to do when he was still in Georgia, we would meet up for like the big releases and stuff. And I think
Uh-huh.
it was King of the Monster, Godzilla King of the Monsters, that we went to this theater to see together. And I got there first, and I was sitting on the sidewalk on a bench, like kind of, just fucking my phone. And all of a sudden, this car pulls up, and I hear, "Hey, you want to buy a gun?" I'm like, "The fuck?" And it's him. And I'm like, "You fucking idiot!" So like,
Yeah.
he just gave me this Lancer because he was getting ready to move and didn't want to bring it with him.
That thing is ill. Does it, the chain, the
No,
bits don't move, do they?
no, the chain doesn't move.
That's amazing.
It does make the noise, and you can you can take the clip out on the bottom, like you're reloading and shit. It's nuts. It's awesome though.
That is so, that's probably, they probably did that for Gears 3. They probably had, you
Yeah,
know, they had them for the display and
that would have been about that time. Yeah, when he,
cosplayers and what have you. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
That
I
is
can't believe
so
I forgot
amazing.
to bring that in here.
Okay, the other thing, first of all, that's amazing. The other thing about Gears that also holds up in 3, but about 2, is that I think that every game developer who makes a video game with a shotgun in it, or a shotgun-esque thing in it, should
Yep.
study the way Marcus reloads the Nasher.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know if you watch him reload that thing, but it
Mm-hmm.
is probably the most badass way you
Yep.
could ever reload a shotgun.
Yep.
And that thing rips. That's a great shotgun.
100%. It's it's top three shotguns like of
He
all
like
time.
throws it in the air and reloads it or
Yeah, yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
It's
It's like
amazing.
Arnold in T2 with the
Oh yeah,
swivel.
on the motor. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Like it's like when you think of shotguns, man, those are the things that immediately come to mind for me.
Yeah. Also, the other thing that's great about Gears, that's obviously through the whole thing, is the reload system. It,
Oh yeah,
it's it's a simple thing, but it really keeps you engaged with the combat. Like it really adds something that you're really present in the combat, and getting it on that perfect little spot to get this to.
and it fucks with you if you mess it up.
And then you'll have Marcus go, God damn.
You're like, yeah.
Like it's good game design. So those are my final thoughts. Mitch, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, man. Fucking, it was incredible to go back through that game. It brought back so many memories. I'm so like glad you asked me to do it. I'm happy to be back on the show. I love the show.
Thanks.
The Silent Hill episode was fucking great. I loved the one you did with the guy that like wrote Star Trek books and
Yeah,
like
yeah, that guy. Oh, he's
had
gonna be
never
back.
played. He'd never played any of the game. He knew nothing. He had like a week to get prepared.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. They had 6 weeks to write the novels. And in 6 weeks in 1997 time is really crazy because you had to basically like be on the phone with the other guy or
exactly.
emailing all, like it's not this. You
Yeah,
couldn't.
right. Right. So
So
like every episode has been amazing so far, man. And
uh,
like it's so flattering that you want like me to be on here because like you have so much more interesting people that you've been talking to. So, but
no,
this was great, man. Like I said, so many memories, and just it's like got me so hyped for Gears again. And it's been a while. Like 5, I liked 5. I didn't like 4.
Mhm.
But like Xbox is really like that's really like they've gone all in on that one, being one of their flagship franchises, and it's fun to be excited about it again because it's been a while. So
Yeah, so that's I mean that's what I'm trying, like this is what this whole thing's about. Like I think there are things that still exist that we've kind of moved on from or forgotten about just because they were a thing, but they're still great and they're still fun to play, and there's a lot of history around it. There's a lot of nostalgia around it, and to go back to them and like relive those moments and realize that they're still good, like they're still as good as you remembered them, maybe better or whatever it is.
yeah, it's
Um
cool like, to find a new appreciation for something that you played 15 years ago. You know what I mean?
exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's really what I wanted to do, and I'm really excited for us. We're going to talk about Gears 3. I'm really excited. I think that will be an episode where I talk well in the books. I think I'll be doing a lot of that in that
I'm here
episode.
for
Yeah.
I'm here for it because I've never read them. So
Yeah, I think I think the Gears lore is all the stuff Karen Travis has done. I have not done the new stuff yet, so I won't speak to that. I've heard it's good, but from what I understand, Karen Travis's stuff, what she did with it is quality sci-fi military writing. And I'm just like so in love with the whole universe, and we'll get to the end of this and it'll be time to move on, but I'm really just happy to be in it. I'm excited to do Gears 3 with you, and we'll do Judgment, which is it's a prequel game with Baird, in the early Locust days. That's one that people it wasn't developed by Epic. It was done by People Can Fly, who did like Bulletstorm.
Bulletstorm, fucking
Yeah,
love
yeah, Bulletstorm. Now that's a game that we should go back to. But uh, Gears Judgment is one of those games that people did not like. It's something about the story or something like that. I remember liking it fine. I think as a game, it's easily forgettable because it's just another Gears game, but doesn't really add too much to
Yeah, I
to the
think kind of
series.
fatigue started to set in at that point. So I think that was part of the problem too.
Yeah, and but I'm kind of excited to go back and play it. It's the best looking one for that
Yeah.
360 era, so I'm excited for that. But next fall we're gonna revisit 4 and 5, and I'm gonna try Tactics. I haven't played much of Tactics at all.
I
Um,
mean, I think I played the tutorial when it was on Game Pass. I didn't
yeah,
get much.
this is really an excuse for me to actually just sit and play that game because I kind of started it. I was like, I don't think I'm not,
Yeah.
and the new books, of course, I'll cover in the next fall. But this is like I feel like this is gonna be the best Gears era. The best time to experience these characters and these storylines. Um, and like I said, there's a lot there. It's kind of like a space opera. There's a lot of characters that just exist for years and come back. So thank you, Mitch. This was really awesome.
Great time.
Like I said, I'm excited to come back and talk with you about more gear stuff. And thanks to everyone who listened. And you can find Mitch Divided by Werewolves on the interwebs. It's his other podcast. His 1% of OnlyFans, top 1% of OnlyFans. Just kidding. I always make that joke. It's not true. Um, but anything else you want to plug, Mitch? Sorry.
No, I've kind of disappeared from the socials here lately. So really,
It's all awful. It's fine.
verbal is about all I do. I'm Mr. Bones everywhere, basically. So if you look for Mr. Bones, you'll probably find me, whether you want to or not. So that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and find me on obviously the Substack, but if you're listening to this, probably know that the Substack exists. Damage per second, video game lore, Star Wars lore, or whatever's on my mind. So yeah, that was it. Thank you all and have a great day, night, or just watch out for the locust. All right.